Okay, let's see some of what is involved in a Garden Warfare character. I think what I'll start off with is soloing some of the character sounds. Start with the corn. A few things. I've muted the reverb. Since soloing a terminal, it doesn't prevent other sounds from going into the reverb, so you get this mix of reverb from all of the sends. So I've just muted the reverb. I've left our echo system, which is a raycast based system that drives some delay lines, because at least I can specifically solo those sends, and they add quite a bit actually. I will have a different video I'd like to do just to show some of the debug and how many raycasts and all that, but to get started, it's just a character showcase. I'll show some of the character foley and some of the VO and a primary weapon, and go from there. So let's start with the feet. I think you'll see, yeah, you'll hear some of their feet. Switching on surfaces. Pretty organic. Well, let's do the foley. It's basically feet and foley and VO. Let's solo that. Squeaky. He's a cob of corn, and that's what the squeaks are. If you've ever peeled back a cob of corn, it's very squeaky. And it works for him. Next, let's look at the VO. So, the VO is being sent to our echo system. The feet are not, and the foley is not. They're left dry, but we'll go through the reverb. Yeah, so this will be a mix of. You hear the feet, squeaky foley, and the voice. Switch sets here, so when he's priming his weapon, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Regular setter, more grunts. Jump in a land. You really get that personality from the voice. So that's the character side of it. I'll get into his primary weapon. There's many variants of his weapon, and he has also another 3 set of abilities with variants on top of that. But just to get into some of the design, of any of the weapons, I'll show his primary weapon, which is his cob busters. Some of them have a voice. The voice element has a probability on it of about 30%, I think. Bullet impacts are a huge part of the weapons. When I design a weapon, I like to feel the different surfaces that you're hitting. I like to include the character of the weapon and the projectile in the bullet impact. It's not just caliber of a bullet. A lot of these are kernels of corn, or they'll be like goopy, cartoony, weird projectiles. So impacts have an opportunity to have a signature sound for that weapon. And on top of that is obviously the shooting. So I think to start, I'll show the bullet impacts. We have some code to know if the bullet impacts are caused by the local player. So a local player that you're playing, we can exaggerate the bullet impacts a little bit so you can hear them at the same level as your weapon, because HDR likes to fight it a little bit. So at least with this, we know to play the local bullet impacts, and then if you're not the local player, they're subdued, so there's not an overwhelming amount of bullet impacts happening around you. So these should be soloed. Different surfaces. There's some wood. Some corn pops. They really add a lot, bullet impacts, and they give you a cool feedback, in my opinion. So let's break down a weapon a little bit. So why not start at the top? This is the LFE, just some thud. Slave to the rate of fire. I'll often, you know, I'll either slave it to the rate of fire or I won't, with a loop, and I have them, some examples of that in I think almost every weapon I design. This one is just a thuddy kind of a LFE hit, slave to the rate of fire. So this, I believe, is the voice layer, which won't play every time. So that's a laugh. Yeah, it won't play that. Another laugh. Again, add some personality to when he's firing his weapon. That's a fun one. That's a good one. Little military scream. So that's the VO layer. This layer is just a little something to indicate the spinning mechanic. Kind of matching the effects that are really trying to sell the spin. Sort of mechanical, but in the mix it works, and it has that sense of a spinning mechanic. What do we got here? So This is one of the center layers. We will use center channel discreetly, since there isn't a lot of important dialogue or anything that needs to be reserved for the center channel. So some of the weapons, when we design it for the local player, we'll actually use the discrete center channel. So when I design a weapon, I like to think of it usually as a center component, or at least monophiles, and maybe a monophile in a higher frequency and a monophile in a kind of a lower frequency, and also a stereo file that has some spread on it, so you get a width. And then between those layers, you can kind of get a nice wide image and control over some of the center information. You can have control over the phantom center and some of the stereo information. It's finding a balance of what content to put where, but it's also a lot of fun. This particular layer is the center one. This is all a stereo capture, but you'll get a sense of at least as far as the stereo position, that it's more of a center layer. I believe I have the solo. There's also a pitch ramp on it, and you hear a bit of our echo system, which has a nice sense of a slapback type. Which is also, it's not the content that has the width in it, that's sort of the echoes are left and right. Why don't I just solo that too? So I'll mute the echo portion. And the pitch ramp is just to give it some movement or some differences over time. This next layer I'll solo is the stereo one. And I've narrowed it in. It's not super wide, since it's the third person. Too wide and it feels kind of wrong. Kind of cartoony and fun, like everything in this game. So this didn't have the echo, so I can add some of the echo. Yeah, you hear that. Okay. And then, because this particular guy, he's also a dual-wielding weapon character, wanted to have a layer, or at least some control over kind of a ping pong. So also slave to the rate of fire, and it's just ping ponging. And raising in pitch a little bit. And those are just individual one-shots. The other ones are loops, short loops that vary in some pitch and also will ramp up with an envelope. The remaining here, I believe it's just reload. So it's foley and VO. And the little pop at the end is sort of the end of the cooldown, which indicates that you can fire again. That's about it. Let's play him all together again. And then I'll show some of the sound design techniques that I've kind of picked up and played with over the course of designing stuff for Garden Warfare, where you need to really iterate quickly and try a lot of wacky ideas quickly, just generate a lot of interesting content quickly. And there's a couple tools that I use that I'm hoping people will find interesting and maybe take something away from. I'll get to that. So this is the kernel corn. Yeah, if you listen, you can hear the whir. Bullet impacts are there. Little ping-pongy things. Fun weapon. I think it feels good. And maybe I'll pick things up on the content design side. I'll quickly show some of the other weapons and variants. So there he's throwing a baked potato to call in an airstrike of butter, I think it's called butter barrage. So it's a butter airstrike. And some missiles. He's just launching the entire cobs with a popcorn explosion. There's a sort of a flipping version of his primary weapon. It's the barbecue. A little goopier with some tinfoil. Corn crusher. He's got his little zoot suit. Changed his feet to hard-soled sort of tips. Obviously Tommy gun inspired, and on top of the popcorn there's some ricochets. Make it feel a little more mobster or something. Pops corn. It's got a little intermittent triple shot mechanic. Little triple pops. Commando corn. So here he's got little mini cobs that deplete. So I have kind of a canister thunk, bunk, bunk, bunk. And this time going down in pitch, trying to sell the can emptying, so it would kind of lower in pitch is the idea. A little more of an explosion. The VFX are a little bigger. So it's a little more of an explosion as well as just some bullet impacts. Yeah. Fun variants as well.